Good evening, everyone. It's kind of getting tough to tell the days apart, but if I'm here on YouTube, I know it's Thursday. Welcome to Nassau Flyers Live, Fly-by Wireless. Tonight we're going to walk around and pre-flight one of our G6 SR-20s. Connor, one of our instructors, will be doing the pre-flight. He will also be on the chat to answer any questions that you may have during the pre-flight. I'd like to give everyone an update about our situation as regards to COVID-19. It has certainly been a trying time for all, but since aviation is deemed to be an essential service, we have been given approval for flight training. We will be set up for lessons starting next week. Reminder that the tower is still closed, so Republic is still an uncontrolled field. Just to let you know some of the precautions that we plan on taking, as safety is the #1 priority for our employees, CFIs, owners, customers, and students. So before each flight, we will be taking temperatures. We're going to require masks be worn in the cockpit, and we will be cleaning all the airplanes between flights. We thought this topic would be a good idea as a nice refresher. Since unfortunately most people have not been flying in a couple of weeks. If you are not yet comfortable flying with an instructor, you can still take advantage of our virtual ground lessons or online classes that we are offering. You can always check with the office for the availability. And as a reminder, we have our half-off promotion on virtual lessons that goes through the end of May, so May 31st. That's going to help to keep you learning, even if you're not currently flying. It's going to make for a smoother transition back into flying. So there's going to be less to go over, and you'll get back up to speed a little bit faster. So let's go pre-flight.
Good evening, folks, and welcome aboard. My name is Connor. I'm an instructor here at Nassau Flyers, and I'll be walking you through a pre-flight of one of our SR-20 G6 aircraft. So we're here in the cabin. One of the first things we're going to check for is going to be our ARROW documents.
So who knows what the ARROW acronym stands for? What are those documents? And which of those documents has an expiration date?
Okay, so with our ARROW documents checked, we're going to make our way here to the bolster panel. This is where all our electrical switches are located. First thing we're going to do is switch battery 2 on, and then we're going to check to make sure our PFD and our standby attitude indicator start to come online. Once that PFD does come online, we're going to go ahead and take a look at our essential bus voltage and make sure that voltage is in the proper range.
And what is the range for the essential bus?
You may notice down here that our flat position light is actually out with battery 2 selected, and that is normal. We're checking that to make sure it's set up properly. With that done, we can go ahead and throw battery 1 on. With battery 1 on, right off the bat, you should be able to hear that avionics cooling fan come online, and then we can also take a look at our MFD, which should be powering up at this point. If you take a look down past the FMS control, you'll see the flat position light is actually illuminated now that we have battery 1 switched on. And that's good. Shows us everything is working properly. Coming back to that PFD, we can take a look at our fuel indications. Now we should have positive indication on both the left and right fuel tank. No red X's or anything like that. And we'll keep this in mind because when we make our way outside the airplane, we're going to visually inspect to make sure that what we see with our eyes is the same as what this computer is telling us. Always want to check but verify. Now we can bring those lights online. If we were doing a takeoff in wintertime or we plan on flying into IMC, we'd also want to check our pitot heat before we do that. But first, let's make our way underneath the bolster panel. Down here, this is in front of the pilot's seat, we can see our alternate static source, as well as our circuit breaker panel is located down here. And as we move our way in, we'll be able to get a closer look at the alternate induction air for the engine as well as the ELT. This is all by your right leg sitting in the pilot's seat. By your left leg, you're going to have the fire extinguisher. So before flight, you want to make sure you check that 1, you have this fire extinguisher on board, and that 2, that green needle is in the green, indicating that you get the proper pressure.
So why are we checking inside the center console?
Okay, so now that we've removed that all-important cap spin, we're going to use that checklist to make sure we haven't missed any steps. Looks good to me. Let's go ahead and head outside and check those lights.
Boy, I love those Spectra wingtips on the G6. And they look sleek at night. Who has flown an SR-20?
Okay, so now the lights are off, we can begin our exterior check. Now, what I like to do when I'm doing a pre-flight is to kind of flow through each section of the airplane one at a time, and then after I finish that flow through, use my checklist to back myself up, make sure I haven't missed any steps. Personally, I find this to be a bit more efficient for me, but the biggest thing to remember is at any experience level, we should always be using that checklist to back ourselves up. Doesn't matter how long you've been doing this for, we're all human, we can all make mistakes. It's good practice when you're checking the control surfaces of the airplane to also take a look in these little gaps for those cotter pins or whatever attaching hardware you might have. So for us here on the rudder and elevator, there are pins running along all those gaps we want to make sure are in place. So here at the right wing, we're going to be checking the trailing edge of that flap. We're looking for any damage such as bending, as well as making sure all our attaching hardware is in place. We can then move our way to the ailerons. We want to make sure those ailerons are working and they have a full range of motion. So as we make our way to the front of the wing here, we're going to look at our stall warning and fuel vents and verify that nothing's blocking either of them. As we come closer to the fuselage, we can take this opportunity to look inside the fuel tank itself and see if the amount in there agrees with what we saw on the PFD. Okay, so we just got done checking the wheels, brakes, and tires on this airplane. Now it's time to remove that tie-down rope. Once we do that, we'll give you a closer look at both the stall warning and the fuel tank vent on this airplane, and then it'll be time to go sump some fuel.
How many places are we going to be sumping fuel from the SR-20? And what is Connor looking for here in the fuel?
Okay, everything looks good so far. I think it's time to move on to cowling. So the first thing I'm checking for is these screws. I want to make sure nothing looks loose or nothing's missing down there. Once I'm convinced that's all good to go, we can go ahead and check the oil.
So when we check the oil level, who knows what level you should add oil? So as we take a look inside the cowling, what are we looking for? And why is this time of year the worst? So he pours the fuel back.
Well, front of the airplane looks very squared away, so now we're moving on to the left wing. And here things start to look familiar, so just like before, we're taking a look at the wheels, tires, and the brakes down here before moving on to the fuel sumps.
Who knows how much fuel the SR-20 holds? And how about at tabs?
So just like with the right wing, on the left wing here, we're going to check that leading edge for any signs of damage, but we've also got the pitot tube to contend with. So on the left wing here, we're checking that pitot tube to make sure nothing is blocking it before moving on to the trailing edge of the wing, and from here, we're almost ready to start.
All right, thanks, Connor. We're ready to go flying. All right, so I really appreciate Connor taking the time to do this for us. A couple of things about pre-flighting on your own. Remember, you can always go outside early before your lesson starts, and usually at this point the plane will be available. You can go out and get a little bit of practice. You can always do as much as you'd like on your own. You can always ask your instructor if you have any questions about what you're doing. At this point, a typical pre-flight is probably going to take 10 to 15 minutes. If you're a new student, it's probably going to take a little bit longer. Don't feel bad about that. Don't feel rushed. Get to try to do as much as you get comfortable with. And you can remember, use your checklist. Always ask your instructors whatever questions you may have. Whatever you see that's out of the ordinary, don't be afraid to speak up. Just want to tell everybody that practice makes perfect, like everything else in flying. If you are not sure of what you're doing, you can always schedule some time. There's no cost. We'll set a plane aside for you. You can go out and pre-flight the airplane, get used to walking around doing all the things that you're supposed to do. So, and remember, this is a great time to take advantage of our virtual class settings. We've all become a lot more comfortable using this technology, and it's a great chance for you to start getting back into the swing of things. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Again, let us know if there's any other topics that you'd like to see covered. We hope to see everybody soon. Stay safe, be healthy, and thanks for joining us tonight.